Hey guys, welcome back to another Ferrari Formula One Evolution video illustrated with 1/18 scale models. This is the Hot Wheels Ferrari F2005, still driven by Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello. Kind of like 2003, the F2005 is a car that was better than it performed, but probably not as good as some may think. The 2005 season brought a bunch of rule changes. The engines now had to last 2 full Grand Prix weekends. They began the season with aggregate qualifying, which they combined qualifying 1 time done on low fuel, and qualifying 2 time, which was done on race fuel. This nonsense lasted for 6 races until they changed it back to normal single lap qualifying, as the aggregate idea was such a flop. The car's aerodynamics were changed to reduce downforce, and perhaps the biggest and stupidest rule change was that the Grand Prix was to be done with a single set of tires. Also, this would be the last year for V10 engines, and Ferrari's latest spec was upwards of 950 horsepower. We'll start with the tires, as this had the single biggest impact on the F2005's performance. Ferrari was the only competitive team to run Bridgestones in 2005. The other 2 teams were benchmarkers Jordan and Minardi, leaving 7 of the 10 teams with Michelin. This gave an enormous advantage to Michelin when it came to testing, but it is unfair to simply say Bridgestone made a piss-poor tire, as the rule changes completely went away from Ferrari's philosophy of short stints using soft but high degradation tires. The rules raised the outboard sections of the front wing by 50 millimeters, and Ferrari came up with a unique design. The other teams ran a scoop-shaped design, but Ferrari ran the separate square-shaped wing attachment, which I think was not the best solution. I assume Ferrari was able to gain a bit of ground effect with this lower element, but I can't help think of all the vortices that come off the hard edges on the end plates, which likely made for an increase in drag. However, Ferrari must have designed the F2005 around this, as they never changed the design throughout the season. It should be noted that this model shows an early version bulky nose that was later developed to a slimmer design. I should also point out that this car retained the single keel design, which is the mount point to the lower wishbones. Most teams by this point have switched over to some variation of a dual keel or twin keel design, which moved the mount points past the outer edge of the chassis, thus leaving a large central channel for airflow. Some teams were even trying out the zero keel design, which moved the suspension mounts to the chassis itself. There was definite aerodynamic benefits to this, though it had a compromise on suspension geometry. The barge boards were tweaked but stayed pretty much the same as 2004. The radiator ducting was smoothed out slightly, but some bigger changes came a bit farther back. The chimney-style radiator vents remained, but varied in size and shape depending on cooling requirements. As seen on this model, in the optimum configuration, Ferrari kept a turning vane that controlled the airflow towards the winglets, as well as better airflow control to the rear of the car. The winglets again grew in size with a now much more pronounced scoop-shaped design. Now, in the late 90s, teams were working hard to shrink the bodywork in this area, but from about 2002, teams were now working at closing the bodywork in the upper area, a la the Coke bottle effect, and Ferrari made some significant gains over the F2004. This section was closed in a lot due to Ferrari going away with the periscope-style exhaust, instead tucking the pipes into the bodywork and using improved heat-reflective coatings to control the hot exhaust gases. Towards the rear wing, Ferrari introduced this mid-wing, though I'm not sure if it simply acts as a wing or if it helps separate the pressure differential underneath the rear wing and above the diffuser. Not shown on this model, Ferrari also had a monkey seat that attached to the rear crash structure and was used at certain tracks like Monaco. The rear wing itself had been moved forward as per the rules. This changed the leverage point and thus less downforce on the rear tires. This meant larger end plates, which teams were experimenting with different shapes to control the outside and inside pressure differentials for reduced drag. Again, not shown on the model, but Ferrari did run slots in the end plates, which greatly reduces the high turbulent vortices coming off the corners of the rear wing. This allowed Ferrari to maximize surface area across the entire upper element. The rules reduced the diffuser size in 2005 by about 40%, and I think this was a big setback for Ferrari, as the F2004 had such an efficient design. It's conceivable to think Ferrari may have took a bigger hit compared to other teams. So we talked about some gains Ferrari made over the F2004, but some rule changes that heavily impacted the F2005 as well. Yes, the tires were by far the biggest issue for Ferrari. Bridgestone tires were especially bad in qualifying, as they just could not generate enough temperature over one lap. At the Monaco Grand Prix, which is a track that needs the most mechanical grip, Ferrari qualified over 2 seconds off the pace. But Ferrari also struggled with some reliability with cooling and the gearbox in the first few races. Ferrari also had a lot of dirty downforce to try to make up for the poor mechanical grip, which hurt their straight line speed. If we exclude the first two races that Ferrari used the F2004M, the F2005 on average was 8/10 slower than McLaren, who had the fastest car but did not win the championship. If the tires were working, the car was actually pretty good. Schumacher got a second place finish at Imola, where the F2005 was at one point 2 seconds faster than anyone else. Ferrari brought basically a 2004 spec tire to Hungary and got pole by 9/10, but it was way too soft and deteriorated in the race. Of course, Ferrari came 1-2 at the US Grand Prix debacle, but that doesn't count. After multiple rule changes over the past 4 years, Michael Schumacher and Ferrari were finally dethroned. I think it's a shame that they were beaten on the account of the rule change more than anything else, as I think with similar performing tires, Ferrari would have been right in the mix. 2005 would see an end to the horrible tire rule, as well as the single lap qualifying, and unfortunately to the V10 engines as well, which were epic. So if you guys liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe, and if you'd like to support the channel, check out the links in the description, and thanks for watching.